2017 Mazda CX-5 Grand Touring all-wheel drive. I'm very excited to review this car because it is definitely in my top 3 compact crossovers for buyers in 2017 and 2018. So let's see how the Mazda CX-5 handles out on the performance loop. So CX-5 was brand new for the 2017 model year, and it's going to be pretty much carryover for 2018. So even though we're kind of late in the model year, still very, very relevant. So how should we structure this review? Let's talk about what's new with this generation of Mazda CX-5, and then we'll talk about some of the awesome things that make it one of the best in class, and then places where we wish it were a little stronger. So what's new? I mean, pretty much everything. The full exterior styling is all new, as well as the interior design is brand new for 2017. We also have some enhancements to the drivetrain with just an added 3 horsepower up to 187 horsepower, 184 foot-pounds of torque through a 6-speed automatic transmission. Other change for the 2017 and beyond model year is they dropped the sport manual transmission entry-level model. So now the cheapest you can get is about $24,000 and adds $1,000 for all-wheel drive. But this model that we're testing right now is the most loaded Grand Touring Premium Edition. So very, very loaded, 19-inch alloys, full LEDs, and lots of other good stuff. We'll talk about the pricing and how this car comes in toward the end of the video, but spoiler alert, it is very, very good value at $34,000. So, all right. So, what are some of the? So, a lot of stuff is new beyond just the design and the interior. You know, there's just a lot of new action with this CX-5, and the biggest thing that I want to touch on is how refined it is. This car is so insulated and so refined and premium that it's really just like shockingly good and really quiet. Even though it doesn't seem super quiet because I'm just like foot buried into the throttle, it actually is a genuinely super quiet crossover, and I think it is quieter and overall more rewarding to drive than even the BMW X1. So that's a pretty big statement, and but I stand by it. So extremely European and premium feel right out of the gate, and that is a really strong aspect for the car because it also looks extremely fresh and super cool with this with the like chopped nose and this new Kodo Soul of Motion styling expression from Mazda Studio that just makes the car look really like cab backward and almost like a rear-wheel drive basis, even though this is just a traditional front-wheel drive based crossover. So CX-5 competes hard with Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, Ford Escape, Hyundai Tucson, the new VW Touareg, and lots of and tons of others crossovers that I'm forgetting, and it does so extremely effectively. So other additional changes to the actual core of the vehicle are additional welds to make the chassis a lot more rigid, and it definitely feels super rigid and super just premium and plush on the road, which is extremely impressive. And then the other big tweak is the addition of G vectoring control. So this GVC or G vectoring control made its debut on the Mazda 6, and what it does is just sort of taps one of the inner brakes as you're going into a turn, and that sort of balances out the chassis and really creates a much smoother and less understeer prone cornering attitude. And it really, really works. I'm a big fan of G vectoring control on the Mazda 6, and excited to see how well it works on this tall-bodied CX-5. So it definitely does the trick. And this CX-5 with iActive all-wheel drive, it doesn't have any understeer that I've found whatsoever, or any broken traction at all. So that's really, really good. We've got the car in sport mode right now for the 6-speed automatic transmission, which firms up the steering even more and gives you more firm kickdowns and a little bit more of a sportier sense versus an eco focus for the car. So it's definitely a very, very rewarding compact crossover to drive, far more so than even the Toyota RAV4 SE, which is ostensibly sporty, but not quite as inherently sporty as this Mazda CX-5. So this car really relishes some tight turns and tight roads like this in an unusually playful way. So of course the Grand Touring package really does help with this, because even though all of the Mazda CX-5s have the same drivetrain, this does bring those 19-inch alloys and 55 series tires that are a little more grippy than what you would get in the standard fare. But they all are genuinely good to drive and genuinely pretty playful, which is of course a big Mazda trait, as they make driving fun one of the big USPs and unique selling propositions for Mazda over some of its rivals. So we'll head back down this twisty road. The guys are mowing the leaves right now. So that's all good. That's really, really good. Other things that are great about the car, I mean, it's obviously silent, handles really, really well. The cabin feels really tremendous with this new design, with this ultra low cowl and these sort of low vents and very wide center console. It just feels like a more premium car than what you might be expecting from pricing in the mid-20s. So that's tremendous. And I also really like things like the drive position. I mean, I wish you could sit the seat a little bit lower, but overall, I mean, this 3-spoke sports steering wheel falls right to hand. Traditional gear lever selection for instead of like some kind of crazy push button is nice. And genuinely, this CX-5 is just a good and far more premium vehicle than some of its rivals. So that's all good. So these are great things about CX-5. Let's talk about the exterior and exterior a little bit. So obviously, I think this car looks amazing. That's obviously, looks are subjective, but the fact that it looks so rear-wheel drive and has that really crisp vertical facing front grille and genuinely and super slim lighting. I mean, it's just ultra modern and really, really cool looking. So that's tremendous. And the Grand Touring package upgrades so it comes, all CX-5s get standard LED low and high beams, but this Grand Touring brings LED fogs and then full LED taillights as well. So really just an extremely good looking package, and one that's going to age extremely nicely on the road because it looks so futuristic already. So for it to be this futuristic and cool looking in 2017 and 2018, it's really going to just still look cool in 2020 or 2021, whereas I don't know if you could really say that about the 2017 Ford Escape, for example. So that's all really, really good, and the car is doing tremendously well out of this handling loop. One of the downsides that you will probably notice if you're coming from speedier vehicles is that there's not a lot of raw power. We've got a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder that makes, like we said, 184 horsepower, 187 foot-pounds of torque. With this iActive all-wheel drive, the torque actually arrives a little bit later. Instead of like 3,250 RPM, the full amount of torque doesn't arrive till 4,000 RPM, which is a little curious, but does make the all-wheel drive version a little bit slower than the front drive car. So about 8.5 seconds approximately, or down to about 8.0 or 7.9 even for some of the front drive cars. So not a pure rocket ship, but definitely class competitive, and makes a lot of good use of that power. The sport mode with the 6-speed automatic is really a lifesaver, because otherwise the 6-speed is so optimized for efficiency that you really need to have your foot flat on the floor to make good progress. Whereas in sport mode, it does pretty well at keeping you in a lower gear, so it doesn't have to do a big kick down when you're getting to the gas again. And then also has some active braking as you come up to corners. It'll pop you down a gear at that point too. So this is an extremely well-developed powertrain, particularly because this 2.5 liter is also in the Mazda 6 sedan. So they've been working hard to make it just as ridiculously efficient as possible, but also like pretty fun and pretty peppy. So that's under the whole like SkyActiv mantra, which is Mazda's way of delivering tremendous efficiency in the real world without having to go to expensive and arguably like bad for the environment hybrid options. They really just want to make all their cars just efficient as possible, and it works. I mean, it really does work. But the downside is that the engine from outside the car is a little bit loud, and on full throttle it can be a little bit, the engine doesn't sound like super happy that you're revving it out really aggressively like I am right now. So that's kind of an issue, but not a big one. And the handling and the playfulness of the car is really what's so special about CX-5 to me. Like coming into that corner, I was in the wrong gear, and all of a sudden it put me in the right gear, and I was able to mash the throttle and use that all-wheel drive to work my way out of the corner really easily and quickly. So that's a big advantage for the CX-5 versus its rivals, is that this car genuinely loves a mountain road and loves twisties in a way that RAV4 and CR-V really do not. So that's a big asset for enthusiastic drivers like us. And it doesn't really get old, like, because this car is so well honed and so sort of semi-European in handling feel, that even at 75, 85 miles an hour on the highway, the CX-5 just becomes super buttoned up, and tracking is dead ahead accurate, and really just feels like it could do its 130 mile an hour top speed all day. Which is a big vote of confidence for these compact crossovers, which even the sporty ones are not. They're not very sporty when push comes to shove. So it's extremely nice that Mazda has worked so hard to make this CX-5 handle so well, and they've done a really good job at it. One of the downsides of the CX-5's handling focus. Let me get by this guy. Okay, are you gonna let me pass or what? Thank you. Is that the ride is a little bit firmer than it is in like standard RAV4s. It's about as firm as the RAV4 SE, but it is a little bit firmer than people might be expecting for a compact family crossover. But again, the dividends for handling and the trusty nature of the vehicle around demanding roads is worth it to me. I think it'll be worth it to a lot of buyers. So other downsides are pretty minimal. I would say that the seats could use a little bit more lateral support, and I would like it if you could really just sit like 3 inches lower than is currently possible. But overall, this is definitely one of the most macho and sort of masculine compact crossovers on the road, with its great looks and its really entertaining handling. I mean, even on this little road, we're working the engine hard and not even having to bother with the Manumatic to let the 6-speed get us in the right gears. And it really hangs on gamely, and is very playful and fun to drive, even in it out of its element. So big fan of the CX-5. I think the Grand Touring is where it's at. I really like all the upgrades that the Grand Touring brings. Grand Touring Premium brings this brand new heads-up display that doesn't have the little flap. It's right on the windshield now. Proper, which is nice. It also brings heated seats in back, heated steering wheel in front. What are some of the other premium upgrades? And a few other things. But really, genuinely, this 2017 CX-5 CX-5 Grand Touring is awesome. You've got new USB outlets everywhere. Easier functionality for this for the nav system and the central controls. You've got electronic parking brake with that auto hold, which Lord knows I love and talk about a lot. Very nice. And then Grand Touring also comes standard with like every active safety feature you could name. So automatic city braking, smart collision warnings and support. It has traffic sign recognition, which is really awesome. So it always knows the speed limit and if there are stop signs and what's going on that way. You also have Mazda's dynamic radar cruise control, which really works great at this point, and also lane departure warning and lane keep assist, in addition to like the backup camera and blind spot monitor. So Grand Touring really brings a seriously comprehensive set of active safety upgrades that are really nice and useful in real life. So these are all great things, and I'm a big fan. As tested with the $600 special paint, this new red that they've got, as well as the Grand Touring Premium package, we come in as tested with delivery charge at $34,060, which truly is great value. Definitely a lot less than you could spend on CR-V, and about equal to a RAV4 SE with some of the good options. But then again, it is $1,000 less than the Jeep Compass we tested the other week, which is a lot smaller and genuinely not as good of a car. So big fan of the CX-5. I think it's my top 2. I was trying to decide this earlier today. The new Hyundai Tucson is amazing. So that one with the top powertrains is going to be my top compact crossover. But this Mazda CX-5 comes in firmly at number 2 and well ahead of Escape or anything domestic. Even Cherokee and Renegade from Jeep are not nearly as premium and sophisticated on the road and even parked with their designs as the CX-5. And yeah, I'm a big fan, so you should definitely check it out. Just be prepared for not rocket ship levels of power, which no compact crossover has, But the CX-5 in sport mode really does deliver that terrific handling and Euro style solidity at speed that makes up for the lack of power in a lot of ways. We'll see you guys next time. This is Tom Burkhardt from Car-Revs Daily with the 2017 Mazda CX-5 Grand Touring all-wheel.